Hello, this is Bettina Cornwell, and this is Sponsorship and Marketing, and we'll talk about the sponsoring process. So we'll start with a basic sponsorship relationship, this initial decision to partner. So in this, we would have a target audience in mind, the target audience of the sponsor that is coming into a relationship with a sport, arts, entertainment property, a property rights holder, and they have in mind some communications objectives. And in this relationship, they will then engage through activation, through leveraging, in bringing this relationship forward to the audience. So that's a typical outline of the initial process. So we're entering in this relationship for maybe, 5 years. And we have to think as well about the sponsor portfolio. So that influences how this might work out over time. So in this relationship, if they have many relationships already in a particular sport, this might go quite easily forward because there's already an awareness in the context. However, if it's a brand new relationship, there might be some headwind. They might have to put in additional effort to build the relationship. At the same time, there is also what I call the roster of the property. Now the roster, and I use these separate words just to develop some distinction. You could also call this a property portfolio if you wanted. But this roster is all of the relationships that the property holds. They may have many sponsors. And if the sponsors were to have some synergies and to work together, this might be more advantageous than if they did not. So a drinks brand perhaps collaborating with or working with a snack brand, and that could influence this partnership relationship and how things go. So that how things go in the 5 years or so, we would say we want to measure and evaluate how things go. Yeah? So measure and evaluate. In a sponsoring process, if we're thinking about this sponsor portfolio, the many brand sports, arts, entertainment with which they partner, when we measure each one of them, then we in turn evaluate across the portfolio, we may come to a decision to enter into a new agreement, or we may come to a decision to exit the agreement. Things weren't working out as we had hoped. So then we come to a subsequent decision. Now, that subsequent decision, as mentioned, could be to continue, enter into a new 5-year contract, or it could be to exit the relationship because things didn't go as hoped for. So in this decision to renew and to have a new relationship again, another 5 years maybe, we see a circling back to these same decisions. What aspect of the target audience, how our objectives may be going to change in our second relationship round, and are we going to differ the engagement? Yeah. However, we could also have these partners parting company. So the sponsor might exit, and the property would lose a sponsor. Now, that in and of itself is interesting, but what we'd like to introduce now is this idea of an ecosystem. Now, this hasn't really been talked about as much, but I would argue that it's very important. So, an ecosystem could have many characteristics. We'll just choose sort of the regional national or international focus. Yeah. So, taking the regional example, I have a brand that's exiting, let's say, a relationship with a professional sports league in a region. And it's the only professional sports league in the region. But when they exit, so they can't actually choose another sports league of this stature. So they might have to make a decision for something that was maybe not their preferred partner. But this ecosystem is a boundary. Similarly, for the sport property, let's say they've just lost an auto dealership that they had for 5 years, and the auto dealership is now available. However, in this region, maybe other auto dealerships are not as keen to be a partner, in the sense that there might be some confusion with the previous auto dealership, that we do find that there is carryover in sponsorship from a previous relationship to new ones. So the choice might be not to have an auto dealer sponsorship into the future, a relationship into the future, or they might go ahead with that with some goal to have a very unique engagement to distinguish them from the previous sponsor. That said, well, international, they shouldn't have any problem. No, it's also challenging there, but for different reasons perhaps. The international brand that wants a global representation has a few mega event alternatives, the Olympics, World Cup soccer, maybe Wimbledon, and so on. But they might have these carryover effects from a previous sponsor to deal with. They also might not be available because these are very competitive sponsorship relationships. Okay, so a basic sponsorship process, but now thinking about the bounded ecosystem. This has been Sponsorship and Marketing and the Sponsoring Process. Thank you.